a great question, Steph. Hey, so we are broadcasting live. I'm Madison Chase, and this is It's Your Entertainment Source or News Option. It's yes or no. And today we're talking about the Senate and the proposal of 4 potential gun proposals that they're bringing to the Senate. So I want you guys to say hey to my girl.
What's up, guys? It's Steph Z hanging out with you today. Just want to talk about some things that are happening in the world as we know it.
Yeah, and we actually took this article. It's called "The Senate Voted on 4 Popular Gun Control Proposals Monday." And this is actually from the Washington Post. So the link is actually going to be posted in the box below. So Steph, you go ahead and give the first 2 proposals.
Okay, yeah, this is going to be informative so that in case you haven't seen exactly what the bills are and what they propose, we're going to give you that information. And then we're going to have a couple questions about that information. So it's a little bit more of that rather than opinionated this time, but we wanted to make sure that everyone continues this conversation about these gun laws because clearly something needs to be done. People just haven't figured out what that is yet. So number 1 is tighten up our background check system, which, I mean, well, I'll keep my opinion out of it. Let me read what it does first.
And before you get to that, Steph, it's a Republican amendment.
Yeah, this one is a Republican amendment. What it proposes, it tries to open the lines of communication between the background check agency that Congress set up in the 1990s, the federal courts, the states, and Congress to better carry out background checks. More specifically, defines what it means to be found mentally incompetent to buy a gun. Also requires the Attorney General to conduct a study on various sources and causes of mass shootings, including psychological factors, the impact of violent video games, and other factors. So that was amendment number 1. That was not passed. Madison, do you think yes or no that should have been passed?
I definitely think it should have passed because I think when we're looking at some of the things that happen, and I'm just going on like basic, going to the courthouse, I have a parking ticket, I just went to the courthouse today. For parking tickets when you're actually there. So I think because it's so antiquated, I don't know psychological factors. And, when we're looking at our medical and insurance and Obamacare and how that's actually passed, I think it's going to be hard for them to integrate what that system actually looks like. But I definitely think it should have passed. So I'm definitely a yes, it should have passed.
Yeah, I'm a yes too. I feel like it gets tricky here because I understand people and their want to be able to bear arms. I'm not trying to say that, and I'm not trying to say we should go collecting guns from people. That's not where I'm at. But I feel as if they're, I think that's, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like, because it seems like such a hard, maybe hard is not the best word, but because it seems like such a complicated process to figure out because every person is different, I feel like that's giving this such a hard time to pass. Does something need to happen so that guns don't fall in the hands of the mentally unstable? Yes. What that is, if you out there have a solution, we'd love to hear your opinion because clearly nobody else has solved that problem yet.
And when you say complicated, I also think it's very convoluted. There's so much information when you're looking at individual people and trying to set up a system that's systemic, that has a process that can be duplicated time and time and time again. I think is a challenge.
No, I agree 100% with you. I think it's exactly why. But in the same sense, when you're talking about Congress and you're talking about mass shootings, I feel like somebody's going to be smart enough to figure out a system that, for the most part, will work. It's not going to work all the time, but for the most part, it will work and it will actually just deter. Maybe sometimes all these people need is a second think or a second check, or you know what I mean? Like there's got to be something Not sure what it is, but there's got to be something.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 2, expand background checks. Now, this was a Democratic amendment. Now, what it does it requires that a federal background check be conducted before every gun sale in the U.S., period. Now, the background check systems Congress set up in the 90s only requires background checks by federally licensed firearm dealers, which means you can usually skip it if you try and buy a gun online from a private dealer or at a gun show or from your friend. So pretty much, you know what I mean? It requires that every single gun show, like the background check is always before you get a gun. What are your thoughts on that, Madison? Yes or no, should that change?
The background check should definitely not change. But again, the interesting point here is that this was set up in the 90s. So I would think there would be some kind of update, and I think.
Well, you think it shouldn't change or it should change?
No, I think the background check should be required. But I'm saying it's sad that some of these other proposals haven't been approved because it seems like there's been no new legislation in reference to gun laws since the 90s.
Right. Okay. I'm with you. I feel like too, you know, it's very interesting that, you know, there's a lot of things with this to me that are just ridiculous. I mean, like, again, it's like if you legalized marijuana everywhere, some people are still going to get it from the black market. Like, it's going to happen. But this in place, I don't understand the wrong side of this. Like, I don't understand why people would be so against this. I think that's what I'm trying to have overall with all these four. What's going on for me is I don't understand the reasoning behind. Like, if you're not doing anything wrong with your gun, if you're someone that just wants to, you know, have your right to bear arms or to go hunting or to go do something that you're allowed to do and you're not a criminal and you're not doing anything illegal, why do we care so much that the FBI or, you know what I mean, that they do a background check so that they make sure that we're all safe and we're all kind of on the same page and we even the playing field for everyone? Why does that federal background check, for me, that's the confusion, because I don't understand why people would be so against it. If I want to go buy a gun, check me. I've done nothing wrong. I'll buy my gun. It'd be fine.
And then I think too, when you look at like state to state, there's so many different things that are different when you're looking at, you know, the typical crimes that are committed in each state. So that's an interesting, I think, when you're talking about passing different gun laws based on what crimes are typical. Like, there's an app that I use called Life 360, and it'll show you, you know, sexual predators. It'll show you what crimes are committed, how often, what time of day, so that you know. But I think that same kind of thing can be applicable when we're looking at, you know, different gun laws in different states.
Right.
Okay. So let's go to number 3. Number 3 is prevent suspected terrorists from buying guns. And this is the Republican version. What it does right now, anyone on the FBI's various terrorist watch list, including the no-fly list that prevents you from getting on a plane, can legally buy a gun. Under this bill, if you're on that list and try to buy a gun, you have to wait 72 hours. The idea is to give federal officials time to convince a judge there's probable cause you have ties to terrorism while still protecting the Second Amendment rights of anyone who is mistakenly on a terrorist watch list, like this late Senator Ted Kennedy once was. So I guess that was an issue. We'll have to look that up. I didn't know about that. So, yeah, I guess, how did this apply when we're looking at the Orlando shooting? Because he was on the terror, I guess because the year passed, because I think he was on the list, or he was under investigation in 2013 and 2014.
No, what it's doing, it's saying that anyone on the list can still buy a gun.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the 72 hours. It says under this bill, if you're on that list and try to buy a gun, you'd have to wait 72 hours. I think had this been in place, maybe we wouldn't be talking about the Orlando shooting.
No. It was in place, and he did have to wait 72 hours to purchase his gun.
And he's, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the crazy part. Yeah. No, I saw an interview with the owner of the gun shop where he bought his guns. And he had to wait the 72 hours, and since after he waited the 72 hours, he was allowed to buy the gun. He waited a little bit more than the 72 hours, came back, got the gun. I'm pretty sure that's what the report that I read said. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I think once you're on this list, now I get it if you're mistakenly on a terrorist watch list. I guess they said Senator Ted Kennedy was once on the list. And I get that if there's a mistake, but obviously
right, it's like, would you rather have a mistake of 1 or 2 people being pissed off because they're on the terrorist watch list? Or would you rather have a mistake that since they were on the terror watch list and we thought, oh, maybe they were okay now there's, dead people, lots of dead people because of this. So I think this is absolutely absurd. If you do anything even close enough, you mistakenly put on the terror watch list, no gun. The end.
Yeah, I agree. I think the end, you should never be able to get a gun, period, point blank, end of story. 72 hours obviously was not enough time for the FBI to say, let's go check this out. But again, when we're looking at the world and the United States and, how antiquated some government organizations are run, like this should have never, 72 hours. I agree with you, Steph. Once you're on the FBI watch list, you should remain on there indefinitely so that things like this don't happen. So it doesn't make any sense. 72 hours, like what are you going to do in 72 hours? And then after the 72 hours, what's in place after the 72 hours? Are you watching this person? Is there an alert from the gun shop owner? Hey, we have this person on the watch list. You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that?
They just get their gun and get to chill.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, what could actually be in place that if you're on the watch list, you wait the 72 hours, what else could be an amendment to this? Now we're going to watch you after the 72 hours because you're on the list. Like, there should be some kind of alert that if you buy a gun, you're on the FBI list, you go and purchase a gun after the 72 hours, then there's an alert that's flagged, hey, terrorist guy from 2013, 2014 just purchased a gun. He waited 72 plus a couple of hours after that, he just purchased a gun. Then you should go back on the watch list and then they should watch you.
That's no, they should definitely do something. It doesn't work like that though. That's not what's in place right
now. Okay, number 4. Did you answer that question, Steph?
Yeah, I definitely think that, it should be, it should 100,000%. If you're on the FBI watch list, you should not be able to get a gun. I'm sorry. If for some reason you got on there, you shouldn't. And you shouldn't, in the same sense, you shouldn't be placed on there until they know what they're talking about. But, you know what I mean? But if you're on there, if that many people thought that you did something wrong and you should be watched, you don't get a gun. So sad. Yeah. Or you don't get a gun for 20 years or something. Right.
It needs to be years, not hours. I agree, Steph. It needs to be years and not hours. Okay, number 4 is prevent suspected terrorists from buying guns. This is the Democratic version. What it does, it lets the Attorney General ban anyone on FBI's various terrorist watch lists from being able to buy guns. This is exactly what we just said. If you feel like you're mistakenly on the list and you get denied a gun, you can challenge the FBI's decision in court. That probably wouldn't go well, but this is what we're saying. You should not be able to buy guns. So I agree with this Democratic version of what the Republican version was trying to do. So I definitely agree. Once you're on the list, you should not be able to buy a gun. If you feel like you're mistakenly on the list, you should be able to go fight the FBI and their decision. But again, like, unless I think that's a city thing. Like, if there are crimes where, if I live in a city that people get robbed or people get carjacked all the time, and I want to protect my family in the car and I want to buy a gun, then I'm mistakenly on this list. And of course, based on the city and the state and where I am and what kind of crimes are typically perpetuated in that particular city. And if I'm mistakenly on the list, I just think it would be challenging if you're mistakenly on the list to fight the FBI and putting you on the list in the first place. But I definitely agree with the first part of this proposal is once you're on the list, you should not be able to buy a gun. So I agree with this. Yes, wholeheartedly. Once you're on the list, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun, period, point blank.
I'm with you. I agree the same because, once you're on the list, you're on the list. I like that you can fight it, but again, it's like we're almost giving all the power to the people that wind up on the list rather than protecting the majorities. And like one or two people, you know what I'm saying? Like one or two people might be wrongly on the list, fine.
Right.
2 people are wrongly in jail, but we still have laws. You know what I mean? Right. It's like it happens, and it's unfortunate, but it happens.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the other issue, I think the question that you asked before we started talking about this was a really interesting question, based on these laws and when these laws were written, for looking at the right to bear arms in the Constitution. How long ago was the Constitution written? So should we not have amendments? I'm sure we could Google that. But I think it was like...
But no, I was just saying earlier, it's like you've got the Constitution, you've got the Bible, you've got all these, and in this case, we're referring to, the right to bear arms. We've got all these things that are written so long ago, but, things change. I'm sure, when the Constitution was being written, no one thought that someone was going to go into a nightclub and shoot up people for no reason. It was such a different way. So as we evolve and the world evolves, and I feel like everything evolves except some of these documents that are supposed to set the rules for life in a way. And to me, that I just don't understand that.
Yeah, the Constitution was written September 17th. Here's the year, 1787.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time for like volume 2.
Yeah, I think we need volume 2. And I also think, when that was written, I don't even know if African Americans were actually even over here. We were considered property in the 1800s and people of color. So yeah, I think there needs to be definitely, I applaud the efforts, but that's a whole other thing we could talk about the next time. I think these proposals and these amendments always come up after, there's a mass shooting. But I think here's the thing too, like, I think people, we often get forgetful. Like, it'll be a sad story and we'll mourn and we'll do hashtags and we'll do, hey, let's do something to prevent this. But I think we're so desensitized that it happens all the time that we don't do enough to really try to say enough is enough. Enough people have been murdered. Enough innocent people have lost their lives. And I did a search, and we'll maybe talk about that the next time, where it did all of the mass shootings in the U.S. and just kind of over time, like legislation that was proposed. But again, like this, we got 2 from the Democrats and then 2 from the Republicans, and still it's the same thing. So it's just this hamster wheel that we keep getting on, and I don't feel like there's enough movement for us to say enough is enough and let's get off this hamster wheel.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of talking happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like this happen, but there's not a lot of doing happening. So
yes.
We stay in the same cycle, and it's very, very unfortunate. Men and children die because we can't get together a system that makes people realize that this isn't right. And just to lighten the topic a little bit, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it was really funny skit, and we'll have the link to it in our YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
The Chris Rock segment about guns.
Oh wow! Okay, we'll have to watch that. I think.
So Chris Rock, he kind of made it a joke about it, but it actually has some truth to it. He was like, if they just made bullets cost $1,000 each.
Ah,
Things would happen.
yeah, I agree.
And not that really the answer, but there's some comedic value to that, but there's also some smarts to that. It's like there's got to be something done to make someone think twice about like how many this would have cost this guy, you know, $150,000 because he shot off at least 100 bullets. You know what I'm saying? Like it would have there would have been something else to factor in just that accessible gun, easy accessible bullets. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, all right, if you want the right to bear arms because you want to go shoot a deer, or if you feel like someone might come attack you and you want to protect yourself, then there's value to that. But there's not a lot of value when you're shooting up all these people.
That's true. That's a good point, Steph. And I also think, too, the state of mental health and how we determine if someone is mentally sane. Like, I think this country has such a negative stereotype when it comes to someone who may be suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So I think when we look at our nation overall and kind of our appetite and or our tolerance when it comes to someone who may be mentally unstable, someone who might be suffering from schizophrenia, like anything that has to do with mental stability, our country has such a negative connotation on really testing and seeing where that level is and seeing how you deal with stress and some of the triggers that may take you to the point where you get to what the Orlando murderer did. So I'm Madison Chase, and we'll try to lighten the mood the next time. But yeah, we just want to really start a conversation to get your thoughts and your opinions on those 4 gun proposals, amendments that we talked about. So I'm actually going to put the link to this story, and we just wanted to give you some information. And you can find me. I'm going to put all my social media hashtags in the box below. But I'm on YouTube, One Mad Chase, on Instagram, One Madison Chase, and Twitter, Madison Chase Fit. Steph, how can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter, IAMSTEFZ. YouTube, Steph Z TV, always Steph with an F. And yeah, like you said, we just want to open the conversation. If you have any interesting facts, any interesting thoughts, opinions, please let us know. We want to know what you're thinking, and you know, keep the conversation going.
Yeah, the conversation and hopefully solutions that we could actually, you know, be the I guess the catalyst to make that happen, because we got to do better.
We do.
Yeah.
We owe it to each other to do better and just to love one another.
Yeah, definitely. Love definitely wins. And also, I'll put the post for the Chris Rock. What is it exactly, Steph?
He does like a stand-up, and it's a snippet. And it's not like just that, but I'm sure we can find it somehow. Or if anyone out there sees the link and knows where that is and found it, please post it in the comments below.
Okay, thank you guys for watching. Jake Smith, SunCloud, Rosy Cheeks, I think something Fifth Avenue and Bags. You guys always leave comments, very thought-provoking comments too. I've learned a lot from your comments, so thank you guys for watching, posting, and yeah, this is a conversation for healing and hopefully creating better solutions. I'm Madison Chase. Thanks for watching and leaving your comments. And Steph Z, you want to say bye to the people?
I'm Steph Z, and thank you guys for watching so much. We appreciate your time, and until next time, and thank you, Madison.
Bye, Steph.
Bye.